Welcome to the Moms Writers Club YouTube channel, coming to you again at nap time. I'm Sarah, and I write contemporary fiction / women's fiction. I live in the lovely foothills of the Blue Ridge in Central Virginia, and I am mom to two dramatic and lovely teenagers.
I'm Jessica. I write suspense and thriller novels. I am the mom of a 2.5-year-old rambunctious toddler who is currently the child napping. And I am the host of Moms Writers Club on Twitter.
I should say that my 16-year-old was napping until 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
I hear they nap a lot at that age.
From last night.
Yeah.
He was napping since last night.
Oh, wow.
Yep, I came up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to do this, and he staggered out of his room looking very bleary-eyed, like he'd got a head rush from standing up because he's 6 feet tall.
I never slept that much as a teenager. Did you sleep that much as a teenager?
All day. They would sleep all day and stay up all night if they could. That's what they did.
Okay. I did stay up late.
Yep. They stayed up
Not that late, apparently.
Slept all day until we kind of had to whip them back into shape. Anyway, so this episode on Moms Writers Club YouTube channel, we are going to talk about a topic that I think that we're going to come back to pretty frequently, which is, when do you write? How do you fit writing into your life as a mom?
Yeah, we get a lot of questions about this topic, I think, probably more than anything else.
Yeah, this comes up a lot on the Moms Writers Club hashtag. This comes up a lot just in general among moms and among, women in general who have obligations to other people. How do you fit writing in? How do you fit a creative life into all of your other time-intensive obligations? So let's start it off.
Okay. So I often put an ask out on Twitter for ideas for Moms Writers Club questions, because it at some point does become hard to come up with good questions every other week. And the one I get almost every time I ask is just, how do you find time for writing, and related kind of the mom guilt thing for taking said time to write. So I thought we could talk a little bit about that, and I will share when I write and when I wrote when my daughter was younger, and then Sarah will talk about it. And we'll also talk a little bit about some of the responses we've heard from other people. So maybe you will hear something today that will give you some ideas on how to get your words in. And then, if you have any questions or comments or other ideas, we'd love for you to share them down below. So my daughter's 2.5 now, and she is a great napper, which probably means at some point she will sleep all day, like your kids. She was not always that way when she was first born. I mean, it's normal for an infant to have a pretty weird sleep schedule, because they just sleep whenever they feel like it and then wake up when they're hungry. But by about 4 months old, she had a pretty regular schedule. She took two 2-hour naps every day, and occasionally a third short nap. So I wrote almost exclusively during her naps. She would have like a morning and afternoon nap, and then in the evening. So I actually felt like having an infant was one of the easiest times I've ever written, because on one hand, she's taking these naps, and that's when I can write. But also it kind of gave me some structure. It required that I knew every day when I was going to sit down. And sometimes I think it's actually hard to not have any structure. And the saying, like, if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that. It forced me to find the time. So part of it is just finding the time. Now she's 2.5, and people keep reminding me, for some reason, that she's going to drop her nap soon. I feel like they're threatening me when they say that, basically. So my daughter's 2.5 now, and what I was doing and what I had to make a change from is she's only taking 1 nap a day, and I was writing during that 1 nap, and then I was trying to write at night after she went to bed. And the thing is, I'm with her all day, every day, which means I'm exhausted. I do not know how toddlers have so much energy to do all the things they do.
Amazing.
So she would finally go to bed at 7:30, and I would want to write and just feel like I was not able to. So I actually started getting up really early in the morning. And yeah, it's really hard. And if you had asked me a year ago if I would ever be an early morning writer, I would have said absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I would have been wrong. I get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I write for 2 hours before she wakes up now. I could not have done this when she was 1 year old because she was waking up at 5:30 in the morning, but she sleeps in until 6:45 now. And that by getting up at 4:30, I'm getting a solid 2 hours in. And then I also write during her afternoon nap. I don't know what I'm going to do when she drops her nap. We have talked about getting me a second desk that can be out here, like in the living room area, and I would hope that I could find pockets of time where she can be focused on a task and get some writing in there. I do have one friend who has 3 young children at home, and she just kind of has her laptop out and writes in pockets of 20 minutes at a time whenever she can. And I'm sure she's interrupted a lot. I think it would be hard to be an efficient writer, but she is getting her words in. She just finished her 3rd book, so
Yeah.
that's pretty great. I'm talking about you, Jessica, if you're watching this. What about you? I mean, it's got to be different with teenagers.
Yeah, well, it is, but it's such an important point to be able. So when my kids were really little, I went back to school. I went to graduate school for nursing when my daughter was 1 and my son was 3. And I had to I was not writing fiction at the time, but I had to write a lot of papers. I had a lot of studying, and I had these small children. And I really learned to function through distraction. I remember then I gave up on the idea that I am going to have this like block of uninterrupted study time, and that's what I have to have. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get it. I am not going to get that 4-hour block of uninterrupted study time. That's not my life. And I have to graduate nursing school. Like, I'm committed. So I learned to study in these little chunks of time, 20 minutes.
That's incredible.
15 minutes there. I just had my book open on the table while the kids were like in the baby pool on the deck, and I'd just be looking at the cranial nerves or whatever. And so when I started writing, I realized kind of how much that benefited me as a writer. Like I could, in a way, it's like you almost have to, it's practice to learn to write, to learn to do anything in small chunks of time like that. But it's also getting out of your own way. It's also getting around this idea that I think we have about creative work, that like you have to have this like splendid isolation, and you have to be like alone for hours with your deep thoughts and everything in order to be good. I mean, I worked night shift as a nurse, and when it was slow, I would get out my notebook and I'd write a few paragraphs, and I would be like, this is total shit. I hate it. But I'd come back to it.
You can revise it.
But the thing is, and this freaked me out, is that I would come back to it later and I would realize it is no more shit than the stuff that I wrote when I had like 3 hours to myself. It's like just as good. It's just my writing. It just was done in a shorter period of time.
So I think the message there is it's a rough draft, just get it down.
Yeah, that you don't need, you can do effective work in short chunks. Yeah. I think that's really important. I think there really is this like myth of the like the grand recluse, the grand creative recluse. That's like the genius.
You don't hole yourself away in a cabin and not speak to anyone for weeks at a time.
Well, that's a dream, of course. I've done it twice at a writing workshop, and of course it's
we should talk about that sometime. Like that would be a good episode.
Oh, heaven, a week of alone time, of course it is, but that's not available to us as moms on a regular basis, and you can't be waiting for that time, so just get it done. Like that photo I was thinking about earlier that somebody posted, and I wish I remembered who you were.
If you're out there, tell us. And
make yourself known, because this was a really inspiring post of someone who had their laptop up on like a shelf of a bookshelf, which was probably about at this level standing, and was writing standing up there so that her toddlers couldn't, reach her laptop. Her toddlers, who were like, making craziness around her feet, couldn't reach her laptop, and she's standing there writing. And that's moms get shit done.
Yeah, you have to try to anyway.
Yep.
The other thing I was thinking about that I've heard from a lot of moms is, well, like kind of what you said with finding small pockets of time. One thing I've heard is, there's so much in writing that's not actually writing, whether it's outlining or, taking notes or doing research, whatever it is.
Daydreaming.
I was also thinking about like when my daughter was first born, there's no way I don't think I could have written for those first couple of months other than like little bits of time. So not saying that you shouldn't try if that's what you want to do, but just that there may be some periods in your life, and
Definitely.
this is okay, where you take a little break, and it doesn't mean you're not a writer anymore.
No.
It means that you are more than a writer, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's like you're a mom forever. Like you're a writer, you're kind of a writer until you really, really quit. I mean,
Yeah,
you
that's
you
true.
don't write for a couple of months. Like it's totally true. It doesn't make you not a writer. That's a really important point. But now
Yeah.
that my guys
I
are
yeah.
teenagers, teenagers are awesome, actually, in my case, in many ways. They sleep a lot. They are self-sufficient. They like to be in their rooms a lot. They really identify with their friends. Um, but they actually, one thing I think that's easy to miss is that they really do need their parents more than they admit. So it may seem very convenient to me sometimes to have a lot of hours in the day when they're off doing other things, but I have to remember like they really need me to check in with them, and they really do need my time, even though they're not necessarily like coming to my door and asking for it.
I'm sure they like having you around. I remember being that age and just wanting to know,
Yeah.
that someone was around, even if I didn't actually want to speak with them.
And they're proud of me. Like they're excited about it. They think it's
That's
just,
wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a whole aspect too, sharing your writing with your kids to some extent.
I mean, they don't read my writing.
Well, yes, I know, and having read your writing, that's probably for the
No,
best.
I mean, not like they don't know what those words mean or, but I don't know. They don't read it. But yeah, no, sharing that you are a writer and that
Yeah.
this
You
is a
know
good.
what my daughter did the other day? She got like one of my notebooks and a pen and just, she's 2.5, so she can't write anything. And she said, I'm like mommy. And
Oh,
it was really cute. And she's done the same thing while reading a book because I'm often tucked into a corner reading a book. And that was
oh, that's super cute.
made me
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. And I have a character in my book who is kind of modeled after my daughter, and she knows it, and she's
That's wonderful.
she finds that um, very
I
cute.
thought of that actually. So like in doing this YouTube channel stuff, we both have had to like figure out the whole makeup thing again because like who's been wearing makeup during
Right.
quarantine?
Or like
So
basically, some of us after you become a mom, you're just like, oh,
yeah, no, totally. Like I'm at home with my daughter all day. I'm not gonna wear makeup, but Sarah texted me that her daughter was helping her with her makeup, and there are similar scenes in her book, and that was very heartwarming.
um, and that brings up another post you shared recently. And I wish I could. We should kind of credit people when we do this. Like we're getting better
We
at this.
are working on it.
We're
Just
getting there.
give us a shout.
Yep. Anyway, so whoever you are, this was a great post about that. I'm always sacrificing something.
Yeah, I was thinking
Every
about that one.
every minute of your day is like, can be claimed by any number of obligations, and I don't mean obligations like bad stuff. I mean, these are people you love and things that you really
Yeah, like
care about.
spending time with your spouse.
Yeah. Or your spouse, your kids, your own body, your health, your job. I have a
Well,
full.
just having time outside of writing. Like all my free time is writing time right now. And in between, I'm like, I just finished revisions on 2 different books I'm working on, and I took 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
And I forgot what it was like to just sit and read a book
Yeah.
or to leave the house when my husband was home while my daughter was asleep and not feel like I should be writing. But the post, yeah, I wish I could remember it. But she said something like, finding writing time, because my kids are in bed by 8 p.m., but that's the time I would then spend with my husband.
But my husband is a night owl, and
that's really hard. I will say something I did when I had a different writing schedule and was writing more at night is we had a date night a couple nights a week, and that did not mean we went out. It meant that we both got off of our computers. I stopped writing and he stopped doing whatever he was doing, probably playing a video game. And we would get off by like 8 p.m. and we'd go watch a movie together or go do something together. So that might be one solution, is just having some dedicated nights where you don't write, you instead focus on your family. But I feel ya, it's hard.
Yeah. I've sacrificed sort of chosen to sacrifice certain things. I have a very lame social life. Am
I your social life?
You are.
Me texting you at 5 a.m.
You are a big part of my social life. It actually fits into the writing life very nicely because it's text and you can respond whenever you want.
Yeah.
But I do not go out that often. I have a couple of close friends that I see from time to time, but so very lame social life. I do not clean my house all that much. It's not a total pit. It's okay, but I am not agonizing about that little pile of laundry in the corner. And it's like on purpose, because part of me is agonizing about it. Part of me is like, I want to get that pile of laundry done.
You see my laundry room right now.
That's all laundry. Motherhood is all laundry.
We don't need people to clean our houses. We need people to fold the laundry.
You are freaking laundry. Oh, don't fold. You do not fold your toddler's
stuff. I don't fold my toddler stuff. I kind of bunch it up because she goes through it anyway and destroys whatever I do. So it just goes in a drawer. But I have to fold some of my stuff, or at least hang it up. But right now it is in my what?
Or it gets wrinkled.
Yeah, but if you put it in the dryer for 5 minutes, it fixes it.
That is true. So there's like
real mom tips from us. I have more. Do you remember the first one I suggested?
What was it?
Off topic. How to convince your toddler you didn't say fuck. You just basically ignore the question, ignore them saying it.
Yeah.
They'll forget all about it or not.
Yeah. By the time they're teenagers, they don't even care. In fact,
if you don't make it a thing, they don't think it's a thing. But if you act like saying a bad word is a thing,
they take their cues from you. That's the whole. I
would like everybody's tips on that. Not that I've ever done that in front of my toddler.
On how to make your kid think you didn't.
You want to hear a quick story, a quick mom story, and we can keep this in or cut this. I don't care. My husband would occasionally, cuss, and my at the time year-old daughter, 1.5-year-old daughter, would repeat it every time he did it, which meant that I could forever give him a hard time about it. But she would never repeat it when I said it. And I thought this was just the most hilarious thing until one morning. And it was a day I had to go to clinicals at the hospital. So I was getting her to daycare super early. This was pre-quarantine. And I dropped something and said, shit. And the house is silent because he's still in bed because it's 5:30 or 6 in the morning. And all I hear is shit, 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 shit.
Of course. Of course, the thing is, by the time they're teenagers, my son who's 16 is in there on his voice channel with his friends on Discord, and they're watching a movie together and playing Overwatch, and the F-bombs that are coming out of his room are just not to be believed. There are times when I have to be Miles, cool it, and I me.
Oh, I know you. What was it, 340 something?
I used that word 126 times in my book.
But her agent did not cut a single use of it, which means you found the right agent.
I knew it when she did not cut that. Not a single one. Anyway, but so I don't know. You may not be this mom, but I'm the kind of mom that I just think they're going to come around to those words anyway. And they just need to know the time and place. Although, there are certainly moms out there and parents out there who just think it's not cool.
Yeah, and that's fine too. to each their own. My parents cursed around me a lot, and I never cursed as a child because I understood when it was appropriate.
And my parents did not curse. Every now and then my dad would drop one, but my mom was like,
okay, so one other thing about writing early in the morning I meant to mention before, there is a really great group on Twitter called the 5 a.m. Writers Club, which is actually where I got the idea for the Moms Writers Club. I was very jealous of the 5 a.m. Writers Club, which I now post in a lot because I'm often up that early. But I really wanted a group that met at night, or at least in like the weird hours that we write in, which is why I started Moms Writers Club. But if you're writing early, check out 5 a.m. Writers Club. They are a great group of people to write with.
I know, I'm kind of jealous not being an early morning writer.
You can be an early morning writer.
Yeah, but I don't need to.
I'll give you a wake up call.
Don't you dare.
I mean, I liked that this particular mom we were discussing earlier talked about sacrificing something, because there are only so many hours in a day. And I understand the pressures of, having a job and having a family and also wanting to be a writer. And I will say at some point, you have to find time to write. Maybe not all the time. Like I said, there are seasons in your life where you may need to take breaks, but at some point you do have to make it a priority. It's not fun waking up at 4:30 in the morning, but that is when I can write and still have mental focus because I haven't been with my toddler all day.
Yeah.
So that is what works best for me. We all have our times. I know a lot of people are night owls, so make time at night, even if it's 45 minutes and you spend the rest of the time with your spouse or your family. And you can bring your family in on that too. Like, I know my parents did not have a life outside of their jobs and their families. And the rare occasion that I saw a life outside of that, I mean, I remember to this day as like standing out to me. I remember my mom writing at the kitchen table just a couple of times. And it's easy to say in hindsight, but I think it would have been awesome as a child to see her doing that every night. I found that to be really inspiring. Like, I still have her journals and think of that. And
yeah,
I think it's good for kids to see us doing something we are passionate about. And I think it makes it okay for them as they grow up to be passionate about something.
Absolutely.
And I know I want that for my daughter.
Yeah. And I think this is a point that we're going to come back to again and again.
Yeah.
That part of it is just finding actual time in a day, actual hours and minutes to fit in at the keyboard. And part of it is giving yourself permission.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that on the next time, maybe like mom guilt and permission. So one thing we wanted to do was answer questions for people. And if you would like to submit a question to us, you can find us on Twitter. I am at author Jess Payne. Sarah, what's your?
And I am at SarahFinn11.
I did pull a couple questions that I've seen around quite a bit, and we're just going to answer those since we haven't gotten any other questions yet. So the first one is how long to wait to nudge an agent when they have your full manuscript? Sarah, do you have thoughts?
Well, first thing would be to see if they say anything about how long to wait. Some agents are very transparent and they're like, when they request your full, they say, I intend to read this within 6 weeks. And if I don't get back to you within that time frame, please nudge me. I mean, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of websites say it too, like the agency website.
Yeah, several of the requests I've gotten have given me a time frame, which was really nice. And I just use that time frame. I'll usually add a couple of weeks onto it because these people are really swamped with material. So that's always nice. You mentioned that I should nudge you after or whatever. I actually went on Google and Googled agent nudge letters or something like that. Because you're really good at writing these things. I suck at it.
You know why I'm good at them? Because I go on Google and I find them. And then I personalize them.
I just copy yours. So that's maybe the first thing.
Yeah,
I would say 3 months. If you don't have any other indicator.
Yeah, I would look like on their email that they sent me or on the website, like Sarah said, or sometimes you can like look on their history on Query Tracker and kind of see if they look like they're swamped. Like there has been a time when I did not nudge because I saw that the agent was like working through them, but was still was several back. But otherwise, I say about 90 days. I usually wait 100 days, which just seems like a nice number, which is basically what you said.
Yeah.
But I think at that point, it's totally appropriate to send a nudge.
Mhm.
All right, our other thing. Oh, we were one of our Moms Writers Club members, Toby Carter. She asked about like favorite writing resources. So I decided we will do a whole show on this at some point. But since in our last episode, we talked about our favorite craft books or about craft books in general, that we would talk a little bit about our favorite craft books. Do you want to go, Sarah?
Oh, my favorite.
Oh, let me add, I texted Sarah and was like, pick one. And we both picked two, because how do you pick just one?
No, I know they do such different things. It's like the best craft book for you is the book that addresses what you need to learn at that moment.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a good point.
there are some that are just evergreen, like that address kind of like the heart of the writer and the psyche and the soul, and those things. Those are really important. And then there's the ones that like really get into the nitty gritty of craft. So I kind of picked two. If I had to pick one, and nobody knows about this book except probably like MFA people, and I do not have an MFA. My husband picked this at random not at random, but he just picked it off Amazon for Christmas. This is The Modern Library Writers Workshop by Stephen Koch. And it's very short, and I have it like highlighted in purple crayon. I don't know. Oh, shoot, I don't see any paper. I just like have pencil marks all over this book. It's really wonderful. It really just like supports the soul of a writer. And he really like gently dismantles all these kind of rigid ideas about what it means to be a writer, and what you need to do to write well, and things like that. And one of my favorite things about this book is that he doesn't use any examples. He
That's nice.
quotes a lot of writers about what they say about their work and what they say about being a writer and the craft, but he doesn't give great big long like paragraphs of text. Here's one way.
You know what I appreciate about that is, I don't remember which book, actually, it might be the other book I saw that you have, which is also a great book. I'm not judging it poorly. But often I have not read any of the books that are used as examples, or none of them have been published in the last 40 years.
Right.
So it feels like a lot of people probably, they just don't feel helpful.
Yeah. And me personally, like, I'm just like, just get to the point. Like, I don't want to read 3 pages of this book. So, like, just make your point. Like, I'll get it. So I don't know, like craft books that have a ton of examples and stuff are not totally my thing. So the other one I got was this one. This is The Anatomy of Story by John Truby. And this is, John Truby is a screenwriting maven. And this is more aimed at screenwriters. And when I first got this book and read this book, I was like, oh my God, that's way too many steps. He's got like 30.
It's a lot of steps.
He's got like 35 things that you're supposed to do. And it's like, was totally overwhelming. But somehow I came back to it like a year and a half later and just started from the beginning. And it was like this really organic process for creating a story. And it's not even so much about writing, it's about story.
I just bought that book a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I found the same thing, that it had a lot of steps and they were kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
But it's also a really good book.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know what it is that I came back to it. I think that was part of my deep dive into structure. And I came back to that. And he has this very organic way of birthing a story, like from premise to completion, so yeah. So anyway, those are my favorites. What about yours?
I have the two that probably a lot of people watching this have already read or have heard about. but I think that they're just fantastic books. So my absolute favorite is Story Genius. I mentioned this in my blog post about getting an agent, because for me it was a game changer. Lisa Cron is the author's name, and she does a very good job explaining the way that as an author you need to know your character deeply and how your character affects your plot. And she does take you step by step through a process that helps with that. And I am definitely the type of person that usually just like skims that and like doesn't actually do it. I would highly recommend actually doing every single exercise. I now do this with every single book that I write, sometimes more than once. I originally did it actually with the editing process, because by the time I bought the book, I had already written a book. And it has a total game changer for me. It helps me understand my character and the plot as a whole much, much better.
Yeah.
The other book I grabbed is Save the Cat Writes a Novel, and it
I almost picked that one.
That
would have been so funny. Yeah.
Oh,
really
yeah.
good.
Oh, you almost grabbed it. Yeah,
Yep.
it's a great book. Honestly, this is a book I could not read straight through. Like Story Genius, I read cover to cover. I have read cover to cover 3 times.
Likewise, this one. I just cruised through this one.
Yeah. I actually own a digital version of Story Genius because I like to have it up on my giant monitor, like on one side, and then
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
as I go through it. But so Save the Cat, it's a wonderful book. I love it. I'm recommending it. I couldn't read it straight through. I found it a little bit dry. That said, the steps that it outlines are, maybe steps is the wrong word, the general format of what makes the story that our audience finds to be a story, at least here in the US. It's just very well illustrated, and I look at those steps in every book I write. I'm trying to think of like what the actual main steps are. So far as like a catalyst, a B story, the midpoint, so on and so forth, all is lost. It outlines that really well and talks about it in a way I found very easy to understand. And while I was subconsciously doing those things in my book, I got much better once I understood what each segment, like what the goal of it was. Yeah. And for me, that was really helpful. So I use those books in combination when I write, and I think it has helped me a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point, that there is no, this is why I like having 30 craft books, is that there is that when you start like really absorbing all this information and all these perspectives, you start synthesizing it for yourself, and you may not like think your story through all the Save the Cat beats, but
they're probably there.
It gets in there with all the other stuff, and it becomes, you can make it your own. So we're definitely going to have to make this a feature, because everything we're talking about, I'm thinking, oh, there's that other book, and then there's that book.
Oh yeah, books. We can talk more about books.
Yeah, we should do a little bit of that. But I could go on all day about craft books. I won't.
We would love to know what craft books you like, so feel free to comment below if you have one you would recommend. I've really tried hard to find one on like writing mysteries and thrillers. The YouTube tuber Alexa Dunn has done a couple episodes on it, which we should definitely link to if you're interested in writing like thrillers or suspense, and she's done them pretty well. But she's kind of made the statement there aren't a lot of mystery and thriller craft books out there. There are just a couple. I have found one good one I can add on later, but she has a couple really great videos on it and on craft.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to our channel, and I think there's like a little bell down below. Hit that, get notifications. We are going to post lots more, and let us know what you'd like us to talk about.
See you next time.
Bye.